Emily, let's talk about a subject that is vitally important for every singer.
Let's.
Warming up your voice.
Yes.
Because if you don't warm up, it will catch up with you one day. And that's the bottom line. You've got to warm your voice up. That's so important. If you go for a jog every day and you don't stretch or limber up your muscles, you will get an injury sooner or later. That is going to stop you in your tracks. And you even have a look at the AFL, for instance, which is starting back up now. These are young guys that are at the peak of their powers and the peak of their strength, and they're always limbering and stretching before they start to play their game. And I think it's the same thing with the voice. A lot of people just think, I just got to go and do this. Yes, you might be able to do that. I also think, this is just personally myself, my voice doesn't sound that great or activate properly if it's not warmed up.
Yeah.
That's just me. It's just not fluent. It just doesn't feel like it's good until I do something with it. I know there's been a couple of times when I haven't been able to warm up before a class, and it's just like, wow, this isn't sounding great, and it's taken me a little while to get into it. Something that I also, this is just personally for me, I don't think that my voice really hits its straps until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm a nighttime person, but I don't feel that my voice, and I think that's why all performances are at night. Most performances are at night, unless you're in church. But my voice really starts to hit its peak at about 8 o'clock. Start to feel good, starts to feel loose. You can just go for anything basically at 8, and that's having a big day of teaching. But that's just personally my voice. What about you, and where do you? I can tell you the first thing in the morning, my voice is like Johnny Cash. Like
First thing in the morning, I sound like this. So
my voice no good in the morning.
Yeah, basically the same, and I have to warm up incrementally, very slowly throughout the day. I would usually start, if it's an evening performance, around 8, with a sound check around 4 and a full rehearsal around 6. I would have to start warming up like 6 hours before the performance. At 2 p.m. to 2 p.m. precisely, I know that if I'm on tour, I need to better start doing some humming, some vocal fries. Vocal fries, basically, a thing that I do every time religiously. It's basically shaking out your vocal folds. Like it just does this, which is awesome if you're a little bit tired. So the first sound that I'm making in the morning is this. While I'm in the shower or making breakfast. After that...
Emma, I think we should do an Ask Vox Singing Academy segment on that. We'll just get you behind the keyboard and just record what you do, a bunch of scales and different things like that to warm up with, explaining people the vocal fry, because I've got warm-ups, humming warm-ups, weak falsetto warm-ups, and different things that I explain on our YouTube channel, but I think that would be very good that we go over those as well too.
Yes. So everybody basically... There are basics, but everybody figures out their own ideal timing, how long it takes, how intensive it needs to be. Sometimes when you have to warm up, like suddenly, there literally was no way for you to sing anywhere. You were at work, you have a singing lesson, or you have a rehearsal later in the evening. Like one of my students came in and asked me this question, I don't sound well until I sing for a little while, like a half an hour into rehearsal. And it was a first lesson, so she just didn't know that you're supposed to warm up and that it's a normal thing. If you cannot warm up right before you have to go and sing for rehearsal, for practice, just start quietly and slowly. Ideally, you need to find 10 minutes to warm up.
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly. That's very important. Let's take it back first and foremost. So in the morning, when I wake up in the morning, I super hydrate, so I have a lot of water, generally about 500 to 900 mils, depending on whether it's winter or summer. So closer to nearly a litre of water in the morning when it's summertime, and a little bit less in wintertime. So I super hydrate because I haven't drunk water for whatever it is, 4 to
Yeah, because you've been sleeping.
7 hours at the very best if I'm lucky. So that's a big thing. I try not to do much vocalizing for the first hour, really nothing at all. And then my voice sort of warms up into the day. I do some teaching. We generally have meetings and different things like that. So that's my process in the morning, and then I have a green shake and different things like that. So no dairy products for me. I think warming up as well too, very important with warming up is having a great technique. So you know, having a great teacher, having some scales. Look on our 5-minute singing channel. It's really good that you warm up with proper technique. Like, you know, if we're going to go for a jog, we wouldn't just go stretch like this and then go. So having a really good technique is important. So diaphragmatic support is super important. You know, I've been doing the exercise all of my professional life. I give that to all of my big touring guys. You know, In Heart's Wake toured for 9 months last year. Joel from Airborne was doing some touring and stuff like that. So I think warming up probably with the exercise, slowly but surely going through your technique, lightly. I'm just going to stop there and actually go through, because I know you said that you start warming up before a show quite early on.
Yeah.
I always like to say that to all of my students, that you're like an athlete, and if you're about to go and play a game of football, you want to warm up before you go and play a game of football. So I think that it's really important to do that. Now, again, with a professional athlete, if they've got a game at 7 p.m, they're starting to get into the mindset at 2 or 3 or 4. So they're not having people upset them. They're starting to get into the groove. So I always tell my guys, yes, to get in the groove of the show, for sure, a couple of hours beforehand. But definitely right before the show, definitely start to warm up, and it depends on how long your voice takes to warm up. So if it takes half an hour to warm up, 45 minutes before showtime, let's start warming your voice up. So generally with the and then a wee falsetto, and then warm up the parts of your voice that you're using. If you're using a lot of high range, cries and different things like that. Say for instance, Kim Benzies from Dead Letter Circus sings predominantly up in the top third of his range. He does a lot of falsetto, a lot of cries up in the top part of your range. If you were the lead singer from Coldplay, he uses cries up to A, and then he does a lot of in and out of falsettos. So a lot of because that's to warm up the parts of your voice that you're going to use. That's what I can really recommend. Right before you're about to go up on stage, if you've got an energetic show, have a bit of a stretch, physically stretch before you go up on stage.
Jumping jacks! Pump yourself up.
I think it's a good idea to do that if it's that type of show. You know, you could be doing a laid-back jazz show behind a keyboard. You might not be doing that, but definitely, it doesn't matter what you're doing. I think it's really important to warm your voice up, because if you don't, it will catch up with you. I was reading last year that Michael Bublé was off for quite a long time because he developed nodules. And I just remember reading that going, you know, because we teach lots of different genres and some extreme forms of singing. And I'm going, how can Michael Bublé blow out his voice? And you know, I read someone else last year as well too that also blew their voice out, and I was thinking, how the hell did they blow their voice out when they were barely doing nothing? I can't remember who it was, and I don't want to say it was anyone else, but it was someone that just sits in the pocket. Like it wasn't Britney Spears, but it was someone like that just sat in the pocket that developed nodules. But Bublé 100% was. He had cancelled lots of shows and had quite a lot of time off. I think also, by the look, piecing bits and pieces together, it looks like Bublé had a lot of different stress in his life. I think his wife or someone was sick, or no, it was one of his children was sick as well too. So again, this can contribute to, you know, not warming up, not getting enough sleep, being tired, being stressed. And definitely it will definitely affect you, that type of thing. But I know that just putting the pieces together, it looked like he had a very tough some life situations with his child,
family,
and then you develop nodules. But you know, you can Google the people that have had. I think this is a good thing, guys. Google a lot of the big singers that have developed nodules.
And right
the best,
now,
Dion, Celine Dion. She had a residency in in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And so the best of the best, she developed nodules. When I read that she developed nodules, I just went, if she develops nodules, anyone can.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa.
Mariah Carey, and I directly quote from one of her interviews, she said that I've had nodules my whole life, I never treated them, and I just kind of learned to sing around them. So what a nodule is, it's basically a blister that becomes a callus on your vocal folds, like roughly.
I just want to go, I'll give you a little bit more detail about that. A blister is actually a hemorrhage. That's when you haven't done anything for a long time, and you go off and you sing for 3 hours, you develop a blister on your vocal cords, then the next day you go and do the same thing, you take that skin off and it hemorrhages and it's like a blister. So that's what they call a hemorrhage. That's how hemorrhages developed. Nodules are like a callus on my hand here from working out in the garden without any gloves. So this skin is developing on my hands here. That's exactly what a nodule is. So it's your vocal cords banging together, and as a protection mechanism, they develop hard warts. They look exactly like warts, guys. You can Google it, and they look like warts.
Look up on YouTube. There are a lot of videos of people with nodules, of different
famous people with
stages.
nodules.
Yeah.
Famous people with nodules. You can go and see famous people's nodules.
Look up some laryngoscopies. It's a fascinating video to see how everything works on the inside and what nodules actually look like, and what vocal fold hemorrhage looks like.
Yes.
And right now, thanks to the beautiful doctors and scientists, the prognosis in generally is very, very good. So if you feel that you get some physical damage, something that wasn't there before, that your voice is not like as it was before, probably makes sense to go to a doctor and figure out what's happening there, because they will shove a camera up your nose and see exactly what's happening in there.
Yes, or down your throat, depends on what you'd go and do. But that is very important to do that.
So turning it back to the warm-ups, what a warm-up does, it stretches your vocal folds. One of the functions stretches your vocal folds very gently, like a rubber band, gets them both going. This way they can vibrate easier and connect easier, more smoothly. And essentially it's very important to warm up with the right technique, because if you just start and going, what is happening? I'm just banging my vocal folds together against each other and they just rub against each other. I'm creating a blister. Doesn't sound
We always
nice.
want to enter in properly. So
with a raise.
Like that. While we're just on that subject, guys, I'll see whether I can find a link, but if not, please just Google the vocal cords working. And you can get slowed down versions of the vocals, but they vibrate, thousands of times every couple of seconds. Thousands of times, guys. They vibrate very quick, especially the higher you're singing, the higher they're vibrating. So you can see them. They're like flies' wings, going very quick. I should have probably done a bit of research, but they honestly do. They a couple of thousand times every couple of seconds they vibrate. So it's very quick. So you can cause damage to them, and they're very light and they're very thin as well too. So technique is important. Support, posture straight, warming up properly. We go through an exercise to start with, then a light wee falsetto to warm the top end up, and then we warm up the parts of the voice that we're going to use lightly there as well too. So that's very important. Something very important as well too is that my voice as well too personally takes longer to warm up in winter than what it does summer. Just because of the general temperature in the room and my body, and my voice definitely takes a lot longer to warm up if I'm sick. I generally got to do things twice over before it's fluent and feeling like it can activate. But when I'm sick, it's when people come in for lessons and I'm sick, I'm on double time. There, I have to work because I have to preserve my voice, but I'm really working my technique, and I've warmed up a lot, and I've got to keep warmed up all the time.
Speaking of temperature, probably singing after ice cream or cold drinks is a very bad idea. You don't want to do this.
You'll never see me drinking at cold water. I'm always drinking out of a flask. Even summer now, it's the start of autumn. but I'm always drinking lukewarm water or warm water to keep my vocal cords warm. Even when I'm not singing like now, I'm still doing that. I never drink cold water. And even alcohol. I don't drink cold alcohol, so you'll always see me out. If you see me out, buy me a red wine. But I'm never drinking. I'm never drinking cold water just for my vocal cords. Purely and simply, that's what it's for, 24/7. So that's just some dedication for you right there. You would never have seen me drinking out of a glass ever, unless I forgot my thermos. Staying hydrated is exceptionally important, guys, as well too. That's really important. If your vocal cords aren't hydrated, they are going to stick together and they're not going to move properly. It's like if your mouth gets dry, it becomes very sticky and stuck. So
very phlegmy, very thick phlegm.
So staying hydrated is very, very important. Now, warming up. So once you've warmed up, you've done your show, it's very, very important, Emily, to cool down.
Yep.
Lactic acid is an acid that basically goes into muscles to help its recovery. That's what lactic acid is. So that's why if you go for a long jog, later that day, 1 hour, 2 hours, your muscles will become stiff. It's actually there to help you out. It's actually there to say, hey, look, let's rest. But it's a good thing to move that out and stretch as well too. That's why when you finish, especially a very intensive exercise, it's always good to stretch after it, or even the next morning as well, especially as you get older like me. Stretching I just have to stretch in the morning now, just as a general rule. Cooling down is very, very important as well too, especially if you've got a show the next day. So important. I'm always cooling down after all my classes. I cool down, just a little bit of an doesn't take me long. I do it for a couple of minutes. That's all it is, and then I just go along my way. I hydrate a lot, and then I cool down, and then I go and do whatever I need to do after that.